We should begin on time, so I want to begin talking about Singularity University and the exciting things that are going to happen in the next few years in the future. I am actually a faculty member. I teach new energy sources, and also I am the director of the Millennium Project for Venezuela, and I coordinate several programs in Latin America. I had the pleasure to live 3 years in, actually, let me use this because the mobile one doesn't seem to be working too well. I had the pleasure to live 3 years in Tokyo, in Japan, one of the most advanced societies in the world. And since I am working on technology continuously and the new changes that are happening. With the Millennium Project, we coordinate also activities around the world. We have nodes on the 46 nodes. We have a competing session with my friend from the Millennium Project exactly at the same time. So I'm happy that you're here. But the Millennium Project, we just published the 2012 State of the Future. This is last year, and you can get it in the library if you're interested in the bookshop. At Singularity University, even though I work on energy issues, there are fascinating classes, all the way from medicine, neuroscience, and human enhancement to artificial intelligence and robotics. Some of you might not be familiar with the idea of the technological singularity. Even though Time magazine published this issue about a year ago called 2045, the year man becomes immortal. We believe that we're going to become immortal at the latest by 2045, both biologically and computationally. So both our hardware and our software will become immortal at the latest by 2045. So this might be radical to some of you, but actually we are happy that even Time magazine began publishing about these ideas. Singularity University was founded based on this book, The Singularity is Near, that was published in 2005 by our chairman, Ray Kurzweil. This book was the best-selling book in science and technology in Amazon.com for 3 years. And it is recommended by Bill Gates as the best book in the world. If you look at the first quote, is Bill Gates. The technological singularity is based on the idea of accelerating change, exponential trends that will change humanity forever. Many people actually use Moore's law, and you're probably familiar with Moore's law. Gordon Moore, who was co-founder of Intel, he actually discovered in the 1960s that the computer power doubles every 2 years. And then the value of the computers actually decreases also. In the 1990s, he realized that it was not every 2 years. It was only every year and a half. So this trend actually is accelerated. Since we have some students here who are too young to remember, I will actually show it to them. For the young students, do you know what this is? Do you know what this is? No. Okay, do you know what this is? No, not you. Okay, these were the IBM punch cards. This is how we used to do computing 30, 40 years ago. Basically, this has 10 rows and 100 columns about there were different sizes. 10 by 100 gives 1,000. This is 1,000 bytes. This is 1K, 1 kilobyte. But this was very bad because once you made a hole, you couldn't change it. So the first electromagnetic memories were invented. And probably you have not seen this either. These were 8 inches big, and also this is 1K of memory, 1K. So we had 1K mechanical and 1K electromagnetic. But this was better because you could always erase and write again. And also because it had a bigger hole. You know, holes are important. A few years later, then the next generation of memories were created, and you probably know this. Have you actually seen this or not? This either? No. Okay. This was 5¼ inches, and this had 512K. 512K, and then this came out. This you knew, right? This is 1.4 mega. 1.4 mega. Today, if you go to Japan or Korea, who are the leaders on memories, you can buy pen drives like this, that have 128 gigabytes, 128 gigabytes for a few dollars. So look at what has happened in 30 years. We went from one mechanical K, one electromagnetic K. In Spanish we say, Spanish is my mother tongue, this is one K. In Spanish K is K. One K and one K is one caca. One caca. We went from one caca to 128 gigas. This is 128 million times better than caca. But you will remember me in the future, and you will remember about caca, but this will be the caca of the future. In 20 years, we're going to have enough computing power in our devices that is going to reach the levels of our own brain. But this is happening not only in computing. Some people think this is just computing. No, this is happening also on biotech, in bioinformatics and genomics. Actually, all of our students at Singularity University get their genome sequenced by 23andMe, which is a non-complete version, but it's enough to know many things on the genome. And this is actually my genome by 23andMe. You can see my name, José Cordeiro. You will see the diseases I will have according to the genes I have, and you will see my personal characteristics, the color of my eyes. In case that you could not see it, it is written on my genome. But it is also very interesting to see where your family comes from. And this is my paternal line. And you can see that they come basically from Western Europe. But I have also some Mongolian influence. And you can check it actually when you look here at the bottom right, famous people related to me. I'm related to Genghis Khan. So no one mess around with me. This is on my paternal side. Now let me show you my maternal side. And I'm related to famous people like Marie Antoinette. I come from a very aristocratic family between Genghis Khan and Marie Antoinette, according to my genome. And the genome will allow you to reconstruct your family tree. For the first time in history, you will actually check if your father is really your father, and your grandfather, and so on and so forth. But it is interesting to look into the past. But what is more interesting? To look into the future. And in the future, we will design our children. We will design our descendants. Here, I made an experiment with one of my students sharing genes. Obviously, this is a theoretical experiment to see how our descendants would look like, okay, according to our genes. And this is a lot of fun, even theoretically, but it is more fun when you do it with 5 people or with 10 people. In the future, if you like the eyes of someone, the nose of someone, the color of the hair of someone else, my brain, etc., you will be able to journal those genes and create your own designed baby. And this is the way of the future. Now, let me tell you, remember this? 128 million times in 30 years? Well, this is actually caca compared to what is happening in biotech. Look at the trends. The first human genome took 13 years, from 1990 to 2003, and it cost $1 billion. Actually, even more. For the complete project, it is estimated to be $3 billion, but the US part was about $1 billion. 13 years. We expect that maybe in 2020, or soon after that, you are going to sequence your genome in 1 hour for $10. So this is moving much faster than information technology, much, much faster. And the same is going to happen soon with nanotechnology and all the other technologies. So let me talk about the future, because I'm a futurist, and I am proud to say that I am a member of the World Future Society for 32 years. I became a member when I joined MIT as a freshman in 1980. So I have been a member of this society for 32 years, and I have seen incredible things happening. And as a futurist, we talk about 4 ways of looking into the future. The first one, which is the worst, is to be passive, like an ostrich. You don't want to see the future. You hide from the future. The second one is to be reactive, like a firefighter, that you respond when there is an emergency. The third way is to be proactive, to prepare yourself when you buy insurance, for example. But the best way is to be proactive. And you can build your own future. You can construct your own future. And this is what futurists are supposed to do. So I hope there are no ostriches here. because ostriches are not from Canada. But if there are ostriches, they should be technological ostriches. Okay? 5 years ago, I had the pleasure to interview Sir Arthur C. Clarke, and I wrote the final interview with him before he died. That was published in the future by the World Future Society. And he was an incredible person, and I admired him so much that I flew all the way to Sri Lanka to visit him before he died. And he is very famous for the 3 laws of the future. The first law: when a distinguished but elderly scientist says that something is possible, he is very probably right. But when he says that it is impossible, he is very probably wrong. Second law of the future: the only way of discovering the limits of the possible is to venture a little way past them into the impossible. And the third law of the future: any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. This has a corollary. If you see a technology that does not look like magic, it's because it is not advanced. Let's review some of those technologies. 30 years ago, personal computers were being born. 20 years ago, mobile telephones began. 10 years ago, Google was started. What is going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years? One of the most incredible trends is actually the control of aging. We are going to create immortal, ageless cells. And because the average age here is rather high, except for the students, I think this is a very interesting subject for many of you. We believe, actually, one of our faculty members at Singularity University, he says that aging is a disease. But what is more incredible is that it is a curable disease, and that we will cure aging in the next 20 to 30 years. So please, hang on. He created a prize called the Methuselah Mouse Prize to have minds that are going to live for about 1,000 human years equivalent. Today, now, we have minds that live 3 times their expected lifetimes. We have minds that live the equivalent of 300 human years, and that is today. We also have other lower forms of life, if you want to call them that, like Drosophila melanogaster, the fruit flies that live 4 times their expected lifetimes, and we have certain worms whose life expectancy has been increased 6 times. This is only beginning. We are going to see the death of death in the next 20 to 30 years. You students, you are part of the first immortal human generation. Well, that is, if a piano doesn't fall on your head, or you don't die in a crash accident, but otherwise we should be able to control aging in the next 20 to 30 years. Now let me talk about the 4 main technologies that we cover very well at Singularity University. And this was started actually by the National Science Foundation and the US Department of Commerce. These 4 technologies that were chosen as the leading drivers of change for humanity and for humans in the next 20 years. They are called the NBIC technologies: Nano, Bio, Info, Cogno. This is probably the most important slide I have because it is a summary of it all the technologies. You have nanotechnology that studies atoms and molecules, biotechnology that studies cells, living cells. Nano and bio are the hardware of life, the hardware of life. And then below, we have infotechnology that studies bits and bytes. And we have cognotechnology that studies neurons. Info and cogno are the software of life, the software. So we have the hardware and the software of life. And we will be able to replicate this, to become immortal, both for the hardware and the software in the next few decades. Also look, one side is actually natural and the other side is artificial. For example, nanotechnology is the artificial biotechnology, or the opposite. Biotechnology is the natural nanotechnology. Similarly below, infotechnology is the artificial cognotechnology, or cognotechnology is the natural infotechnology. But in the future, what is natural and what is artificial will merge. Just like reality and virtuality. In the future, we will make not such a big difference about what is real and what is virtual. Everything will be mixed. Nanotechnology, you know, little structures made atom by atom at perfection, that will create clean cities because there will be no waste. With nanotechnology, there will be no waste. You will put an atom where you need that atom. There will be no waste in the future thanks to nanotechnology. Biotechnology, I repeat, is the natural nanotechnology. And we will be able to create artificial organisms. We will be able to clone different body parts or different organisms. Actually, in Singapore right now, in Biopolis, which is a little research center in Singapore, they can clone any animal. If you have an animal that died, your pet, your dog, or your cat, you can clone it. And not only in Singapore they are working on cloning, they are also working in cloning in Russia. And you know, with Russians, sometimes you don't know what they think. You know, when they are happy, upset, sad, you know, Russians look all the time the same. Especially Vladimir Putin, right? Vladimir Putin. Okay, but talking about cloning, let me tell you, I visited one of the major cloning centers in the world, which is in India, in Hyderabad. And Indians believe in cloning because cloning is like rebirth. In Hinduism, you don't die, you just have a rebirth. So that is cloning. And the Indian gods, you see the Indian gods, they have 8 hands. They have a trunk. They have many different body parts. 3 heads. Imagine how useful it could be to have 3 heads. One head works, one head studies, the other head has fun. You know, all at the same time. And people want to be like their gods. And this is how the Indian gods are. So do not laugh. Indians believe in cloning and biotech because this is how their gods are. But be careful with the clones. We do not want to be attacked by the clones. So this is the other slide I want you to memorize, which is the biological complexity of our hardware. The human hardware has 3 gigabytes. 3 gigabytes of information. Actually, it is on not a binary code like informatics, which is zeros and ones. In biology, we have a code of base 4, adenine, cytosine, guanine, and threonine. But it's 3 gigabytes. I showed you this pen drive, which is 128 gigabytes. How many humans can you fit here? What is 128 divided by 3? It is 42.6. Here you can fit 42 Canadians and 0.6 of an American. Sorry for my bad joke. Huh? Anyway, so you see the human genome, our hardware is not that complicated. Now let's talk about the software, the human software, and that is basically info and cognotechnology. According to the projections, we will soon be reaching computers that are as smart as humans. In fact, this is already beginning. On February 14th last year, IBM released their computer called Watson. And Watson was not just any Watson, it was the Watson who founded IBM. So it is a very important Watson for IBM. And this computer called Watson, he beat the best humans at the game, whose names are Ken and Brad. Actually, Ken was so good that he even wrote a book about how to win at Jeopardy. And you know what IBM's Watson did? It read the book. And it won. But it is very simple, you know. Watson can read all the literature in the world. Watson is born with Wikipedia in its brain. How many of you have read all of Wikipedia? Watson was born with it. There is no way humans will compete with artificial intelligence in the next few years. Now, you will say it is expensive? Yes, it is expensive. It costs between $40 and $100 million. But that was also in the past, when IBM released their previous computer called Deep Blue, that beat the Soviet player Garry Kasparov, who was the world chess champion. That computer actually was much more expensive. It cost $100 million. But you know how much it costs today? It costs $10, and you can download it in internet. What used to cost $100 million is a simple software package. And actually, for humans, you have 3 categories, and for computers, you have 4. You know, for humans, you have idiot, mega idiot and giga idiot. Because we humans cannot compete on chess with computers anymore, and in many other things in the future. So again, you know, Watson will actually will cost probably only $10 in 5 years. Or actually it will be a free app on your smartphone. So this is happening, and we will connect all of our brains. I saw this in Finland. This is a Nokia publicity where they say that now the children will be connected to internet from birth. And they will want more bandwidth. Those will be their first words. Not mom and dad, but bandwidth. Okay, and then we get to the last and most important technology, which is technology. And this is so important because the brain is the most complex structure in the known universe. There is nothing that we know today that is more complex than the brain. Maybe tomorrow some Martians visit us, and they will have bigger brains or more complex brains. But as of now, there is nothing that we know more complex than the brain. And you know what? The brain is not so complex. And we will actually create artificial brains in the next 2 decades. In Japan, I visited this center, which is called the Riken Brain Institute, where they plan to create artificial brains. First, they saw the evolution of the brain and how the brain actually appears with animals, with fish and reptiles, because plants do not have brains. Plants do not move, therefore they don't need a brain. The main purpose of the brain is not intelligence, it is movement, to coordinate movement. So anyway, humans, we have the most complex brain that we know of. But in Japan, their objective is that by the year 2018, they will be able to create artificial brains, equivalent of artificial brains for humans. So if anyone here doesn't have a brain, no problem. Just save some money and go to Japan in 2018. Now let me give you, this is the other important number you need to remember. The complexity of the human software. One brain has 10 to 11 neurons. Each neuron has about 1,000 connections called synapses. Each synapses computes at about 100 hertz. Brains are very slow, 100 hertz, 100 revolutions per second. This is very, very slow. This computer is probably 2, 3, 4 gigahertz. That computer is over 10 million times faster than any of our brains. That single computer. Who can divide here 1,234 by 1720? Can anyone do it? Well, computers do it in 1 nanosecond because they process 10 million times faster than we do. The difference is that our brain still has more neurons and more synapses, but this will change in the next 20 years. So, a brain is a structure that computes 7 to the 17 operations per second. That is a human brain. If we don't talk about the mind, the soul, and the spirit, and I only talk about the mind, the soul, and the spirit after 3 cups of red wine, then that is a human brain. And we will connect, we will find how the brain is connected, which is the equivalent of the genome, is the connectome for the brain. Because there are also brains of different sizes, you know. This is a very small brain, so there are brains of all different sizes. We will connect our brains to the machines, to the computers. You can do it internally, opening your skull, but that is a bit painful. Or you can do it externally, and you can use like an electroencephalogram to read all your thoughts. Some companies are doing this, like Emotive. I have one of these kids that actually can read my mind, or it is just beginning. We will connect this to the computers. We will interact with the computers and the robots. We will merge with the robots. And look what is happening now with the robots. This is the last 15 years of Asimov from Honda. Can you imagine the next 15 years of Asimov? In 15 years, the Olympic Games in London or wherever will not be won by a human team. It will be won by a robotic team. Because robots will be incredibly versatile, much more than humans, much more powerful than humans, stronger, faster, more reliable than humans. And they will have feelings. I studied at MIT. In MIT, they are working on understanding the feeling of the robots today. And in Korea, in South Korea, the parliament of South Korea is working on a law to give human rights to robots. In Korea, they expect that in 10 years, every family will have at least one robot, and that these robots will want human rights. Actually, even more. They will want robotic rights. And robots will be incredible. You can see these fantastic female robots. But don't worry, also for girls, you have your fantastic male robots, with the advantage that they will not get tired at night. Unfortunately, in the Western countries, robots are bad. Robots normally are bad. And you know this. This is the governor of California. Singularity University, let me come back to Singularity University that was inaugurated in 2009 in the center of Silicon Valley in California. And Arnold Schwarzenegger gave the inaugural speech at Singularity University as governor of California. And he said, fantastic, finally a university is looking really into the future. Because the science fiction of today is the science reality of tomorrow. And he finished his opening speech with his famous phrase, I'll be back. And this is true, you can check his video for the inauguration of Singularity University. But my point again is that in the Western countries, robots are bad. Female robots are bad too. Even when they have robot sex, they are bad. But do you know where robots are good? Robots are good in Japan, in Korea, in China. Robots are not only good, they are better than humans. When a human has a problem, who saves the human? A robot. The conception of robots between the West and the East is very different. Robots have souls in Japan. Robots are good in Japan. That is why Japan is the world leader in human robotics. Also, like dragons. You know, when you think of dragons in Europe are bad. European dragons are bad. Where are they good? In China, in Korea, in Japan. Asian dragons are good. European dragons are bad. European robots are bad. Japanese robots are good. So every company in Japan is working on robots. One of my professors at MIT actually was asked if will robots inherit the earth. And Marvin Minsky, one of the fathers of artificial intelligence, said, yes, but they will be us. We will be them. We are merging with the machine. So it is not human or machines, it's human and machines. And actually, it is sad that in London, this athlete was not given the green light to participate because he's the first human cyborg runner. Blade runner. He is finally? Okay, I didn't know. So I want to say that, I hope it's not now.
400 meters relay for South Africa.
Okay, fantastic. You know, this is the future. And he was almost disqualified by normal humans with legs because he's faster than humans with legs. By the way, I have to leave right after this conference because I am going to San Francisco and I will be running the San Francisco Marathon tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So, but I am still fully human. I would like to be like that. But anyways, surely in the future. I could run more with those legs than with my legs. Anyway, this is called transhumanism, which is based on the philosophy of humanism with science and technology. How humanism, thanks to science and technology, will improve the human condition. We will transcend human limitations, biological, chemical limitations. But we have to do it carefully, because we don't want to finish like that. Okay? So, humans have existed for a very few years. Humans have existed for only 100,000 years in our current version. This is just the beginning. This is the beginning towards an incredible world in the future where we will cure all diseases. All diseases we will cure in the next few years. All of them. All of them. All of them. Including aging, which is the ultimate disease, aging. We will cure aging, I hope, in 20 to 30 years for the students here. And then we will conquer the final frontier, which is not really the space, by the human brain. But everything has a dark side. And as the Chinese say, the yin and yang are very complex. And even the yin yang inside have little yin yang and more yin yang. So the Chinese say, do not blame darkness, but light up a candle. So what we want to do in Singularity University is to light up a candle of all the opportunities that science and technology bring to the world. And also I teach in Korea, and let me show you Korea. As you can see in front of Japan, there are two Koreas. There is one illuminated Korea, South Korea, and there is one dark Korea, North Korea. And it's beautiful because it is the same country, but it was divided, and one is advanced thanks to a good economic and science and technology system, and another one is dark. So let's treat the world as one. We have to meditate. I do a lot of meditation. And I'll finish with this Chinese word that means crisis. In Chinese, crisis has two characters. Before, I did not know how to draw it. I drew it backwards, sideways. Now I know it is like that. And the first character means danger. And the second character normally means opportunity. So every crisis has danger and opportunity. And the opportunity we bring in Singularity University with the support of all of our founders, and we are based in NASA in Silicon Valley. This is our 10-week program. We have two of our graduates that are going to talk now. And they work on team projects at the end to solve the global grand challenges. Poverty, energy, etc., etc., etc. And with that, I want to welcome you to the Singularity. And let's go with Anna, please. I have some information later also for you if you're interested in our programs. We have summer programs and then executive programs which are 1 or 2 weeks long. And I'll be happy to talk after our students, and we'll have time for questions and answers. So, Anna, whenever you're ready. Okay, a quick
I believe you said in 10 years almost, or many households will have robots.
In Korea, yes. This is a national plan. Actually, as of next year, I know because I teach 4 months of the year in Korea. Let me tell you 2 more incredible things about Korea. And I was having lunch just now with the Vice Minister of Finance of Korea, who is here in the conference.
How complex will those robots be, and approximately what will they cost?
Okay, well, first they will be very simple robots. You know, all these technologies are simple. But now you can buy a humanoid robot in Korea for about $20,000. That will probably, in 10 years, be a quarter of the price, and it will be much more powerful. But talking about robots, I wanted to tell you that as of next year, 2013, there will no longer be human teachers for English. All the teachers for English will be robots. And you will be able to learn Australian English, British English, American English, Canadian English with the accent that you want. And these robots will have infinite patience for you. And they will be able to track your problems when learning English. So this is an incredible thing that Korea is doing in terms of education robotics. Another one is that there will no longer be books in Korea as of next year for elementary education. All the material will be in tablets, no longer books in primary education. After about 4 years later, they will eliminate also books in the high schools, and in 10 years in universities. So anyway, let's go and let's welcome Anna Turina that came all the way from Moscow, Russia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today I would like to tell you about one exponential trend which we launched at Singularity University, and about how we use this trend to make positive changes for the world. I'll start with biology. This is our human body. It consists of trillions of cells. Each cell has a chromosome which contains all the genetic data.
Can you speak a little louder?
Personal genetic data comprise an enormous amount of information which can help children know about himself and to establish new social ties. Genes can tell us about our unique strengths. The results of our research published in one article showed that the specific combination of genes are responsible for those personal characteristics that determine the ability to successfully participate in stock trading. Our genes determine the mechanism of oxygen consumption, so you can understand who you are, a marathon runner or a sprinter. The base of personalized medicine is the knowledge about your DNA. So the effectiveness of the treatment very often depends on the personal genetic characteristics of the patient. Personal genotyping is a rapidly growing market nowadays. The observed exponential decrease in the prices of the services will lead to the exponential in the number of people obtaining genotyping 40 times in 4 years. Some of the companies have already appeared on the market, and one of them you can see here, and José already talked about it. It's a 23andMe company established in the United States. The process of such a direct-to-customer service is very easy. You order a kit for DNA analysis, then send it back to the lab. The DNA usually is released from your cellular, and after this you will get the report, which includes the information about your genetic disease predisposition, your drug response, your affiliation to your geographical affiliation of your ancestors, your personal characteristics, for example, resistance to the alcohol. But all these services have one problems, because after you get this report, you usually don't know how to use this information, how to work with this data. There are no currently services which can help you to find a specialist, for example, genetic counselor, who can explain your genetics better. There are no currently services which could give you a personalized, actionable plan based on your genetics. So, according to this program at Singularity University, we have created Primary Life. Primary Life is a web-based platform which helps to make the best use of genotyping tests with realizing the following functions. First of all, you can get the interpretation of your results. You could start the social interaction with another users. You could find a suitable genetic counselor and to make a professional online consultation with him. You could get a personalized actionable plan on the basis of artificial intelligence tool provided with one of our partners in Spain, the company iActive. This company is a market leader in the development of applications using artificial intelligence systems in healthcare treatment, and some of its solutions have already implemented in several medical centers in Spain. Our system works now as a private version, but if you follow primarylife.com, you can register right now. As soon as we make an open version, we'll send you an invitation. We are a commercialized project with several sources of revenue. Nowadays, we are working on our prototyping. We are incorporated in Russia this year. We got the status of resident in Skolkovo Center, which is a huge environment center in Russia. We got a grant from this foundation, and we are working with private industry. This is our team of founders. We are 6 people from 5 different countries. All of us met in Singularity University last year. We are specialists in different areas: information technology, artificial intelligence, biomed, business development. Also, we are working with several partners and companies who are helping with us. And finally, I'd like to say that genome and biological data will become the primary platform for building a strategy of human life. So, this is my contact. If you have any questions, please ask.
So you see, Anna was one of our students from last year. We have students from 35 countries currently, from all over the planet. And yes, we also have Canadian students, also for the executive program. Here, Kim Solet, if you can stand up. He's one of our Canadian students for the executive program. And yes, and we have one of our faculty, also Canadian, Andrew Hassel, that you saw yesterday night. Please stand up, Andrew. Okay, he's from Canada also. Even the faculty is international, so. And then I think there might be someone else from Future Med. Anyone from Future Med? No? Rachel? Okay. Anyway, so not only from Russia, but we also have now the next presentation is from Bulgarian by birth, Canadian by choice. So Nicola is going to talk about his project, what he has done, and what he's doing, and what he will do. And he is, as I said, from Bulgaria, but he lives now here in Toronto. So an applause for Nicola.
Hi guys. Last time I talked to Jose, he asked me, Nick, would you mind coming up to say a few words during my presentation? And I said, sure, why not? I cannot say no to you. And then yesterday in the afternoon, I got this email saying, oh, by the way, do we have a PowerPoint presentation? And I was like, am I actually really presenting? So then I actually came here to register, and they gave me a little badge which says speaker in the back. And I was like, thank you very much for letting me know, Jose. But I guess that's what friends are for. So in the next 10 minutes, I'll very briefly just share with you three things. First of all, my experience at Singularity University and what we did there, our team project. Secondly, what I do now. And thirdly, I'll be even as presumptuous as to go and tell what you should do after we're done here. So let me start with point one. The mandate at Singularity University is how do you improve the life of a billion people positively within 10 years? And then basically you have a preliminary period within those 10 weeks that you spend there, during which time you basically are under a barrage of the most incredible speakers that you can put in a single room from anywhere starting 9 in the morning, officially until 9 p.m., but that's a lie. Usually it goes until 1, 2, 3 a.m., I swear. And if you're lucky, if you get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And so imagine an MBA program usually is about 120 lecture hours or so for about 12 months, or 9 months at the least. In Singularity University, I think we had about 360 hours of lectures in the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And those are official numbers, and as I said, those are a lie. We actually went easily 20% longer than that. And the problem is you cannot say no, because most of those people who come to speak, if not all of them, are once in a lifetime opportunity, and you just cannot go to sleep and fall asleep. At least I couldn't, knowing that they're there and speaking for you. So anyway, after that period, people are basically picking a topic where they think they could make a difference, and they form teams which are supposed to address those global challenges that we have. And so very briefly, just to share with you, our team project, we were actually one of the smallest teams. We were only 6 people. And one of the problems with our team was that we pivoted, as they say, 7 times. And there's a lot to say about the benefits of pivoting, because it's a learning process. Every time you sort of start afresh, it's very painful, it's very hard, but you learn a lot. You learn a lot about the world, and you learn a lot about you, yourself, and you learn a lot about the people you're working with. So I highly recommend it, even though it's very painful. In the end of the process, we ended up with this project called corruptiontracker.org. And in essence, what it is a crowdsourced software where people can report corruption. So let me see if I can just very quickly run through the slides. This is supposed to be it's an older PowerPoint presentation that I had to dust up last night at 1 o'clock in the morning. And basically, according to Transparency International, as you can see, corruption is a very, very widespread problem. And we are not immune here, even though we're pretty much as good as it gets. Realistically, we are still very much suffering from it here in North America, both in Canada and the US. And as you can see, clearly...
What was the
color? Like, is it like light color to dark color?
Yeah,
Better or
the
worse?
darker red is the most corrupted countries in the world. Well, taken to Transparency International, I'm just using their data, which is based on actually quite a few years of interviews with a few thousand people. So this is what the data says. I didn't make that. And as you can see, there's a clear correlation between wealth or GDP and rates of corruption. So basically, the poorer a country is, the more corrupted it is. And for people who think that corruption is one of those problems which is really not life-threatening and not really so important, I'd like to show this picture, because as you can see, 83% of all deaths from buildings collapse and earthquakes over the past 30 years occurred in countries that are anomalously corrupt. In other words, if you compare the earthquake in Chile to the earthquake in Haiti, the earthquake in Chile was several times stronger, and yet there was a small fraction of victims as opposed to Haiti. And the difference is poor building codes and corruption, because none of those buildings should have been standing or being built the way that they were built. And so corruption has a very serious direct cost in terms of lives and lives lost today with people. It's not just a problem on paper, but it's a real life-threatening problem. Another example is in a place like China. That incident happened actually while we were at Singularity University last year. There was a lot of corruption going on building the high-speed train links in China, and as you know probably, there was this incident when 2 trains collapsed, and there was a head-on collision between 2 trains. And another example was in a country, I think this was actually taken from Moldova. Somebody went to the doctor, and we have actually all the reference her name, which is escaping me right now. And the doctor refused to treat her because she was unable to pay, and after that she died. So there is a very direct result of not tackling corruption. So we thought, okay, so that's clearly a problem, so what can we do about it? And we came up with this platform, which is basically, as I said, crowdsourced mapping software. And our motto is, you see corruption, we tell the world. So basically, by the way, you can go and download the app on Apple's iStore, or you can go to corruptiontracker.com. And basically, you can report anonymously in several ways. You can use a smartphone, you can use an SMS message, you can use the internet, you can use a number of different pathways to report. Then there's many options for doing data aggregation and data analysis. Here are some examples of very corrupt individuals being caught in the middle of the action. Maybe you'd recognize some of them. One way, for example, of populating data on those corruption maps is via Twitter. We are living and we're swimming in an ocean of data. And a lot of people who are frustrated and don't have a venue where they should put their frustration go and tweet about it or share their experiences on social media. And actually it's not so hard to data mine this and then overimpose it on a map. And that in turn can create a number of tools that can be used by a number of people. Those tools can be used by journalists who write investigative reports. They can be used by police. They can be used also by the citizens to put pressure on their government, or be it municipal, federal, provincial government. Because clearly when you have a clustering of reports of corruption within certain geographical areas, as opposed to others which do not, then at the very least it warrants further investigation. This was our team. As José said, we are a very international group. So Dr. Clarence Tan. One of the reasons why we undertook this project is because he holds a patent on secure SMS messaging, which is currently being used in Australia for reporting medical results to sex workers and other people who want to be anonymous and who lack steady home address. Most of those people who are usually at risk, they carry their cell phone no matter where they go, even if their home address changes. And so they were looking for a way to securely send the information about whether you're HIV positive or not in a verifiable way, which would get to the intended person only, and then it would be verified that only that person opened the information. So anyway, he holds the patent of that technology. And then we had Cristobal, who is from Brazil, Jaime, who is originally from Spain, but is actually working for the European Space Agency now, Pablo from Uruguay, Pablo from Ukraine, he lives in Washington State right now, and me. So after the year was over, we started hitting some problems with our project. So in the short term, we managed to accomplish a few benchmarks, such as we got a lot of coverage from Forbes, Fortune magazine, The Economist, Radio Netherlands. And, but after that, we had a number of issues coordinating between each other. And we basically were looking for who is the best person to take this project to the next level. And then, luckily for us, Usha Kidi, whose platform we were utilizing, together with Transparency International, expressed interest in the project. And after a year of sort of going back and forth, they actually took on the project, and now they host the servers and they have the data, and so from here on it's their baby. This is an example of a report from Bombay, I think. Those are the kind of reports, for example, that we get in the system occasionally. So that's our project. That's what we did there. That was at least the final result. I don't know, you can judge it in your own mind. So let me move on quickly to tell you what I'm doing now. Basically, and one of the reasons why I got interested in Singularity University is because I'm a blogger and a podcaster, and I have a blog that's called singularityweblog.com. My podcast is called Singularity One-on-One, and actually a good half of probably the speakers at the conference have been on my show before, some of them a couple of times, and one of the reasons I'm here is to try and get the other half to come on the show. What else should I say? Well, I should finish just by saying this. The future is way too important to be left to the futurists. There's always more smart people outside of a community rather than only inside. So intelligence outside of it is always greater than intelligence inside. And as Einstein said, imagination is even more important than intelligence. None of us, maybe not all of us, are equipped to be futurists, but none of us lacks in imagination. And therefore, it's our responsibility to open up that conversation, to engage people, to help them see that they shouldn't wait for the future to happen to themselves, as Brian from Intel said last night, but they should actively go and stake a claim in it. Thanks.
Okay, we heard two fantastic presentations, one from Primer Life, that is working on medicine with Anna, and the second one, Corruption Tracker, with Nicola, that is working more on political issues, if you please. Since we have here, Andrew, do you want to come here and speak 3 minutes quickly about Singularity University? Since you have 3 minutes at the opening, we will give you also 3 minutes here, please. He's not prepared, but that's okay.
He does that all the time.
I'll just say this. I've been involved with Singularity pretty much from the outset because of one reason. I've been working with a number of different universities in Western Canada and beyond, trying to figure out ways to integrate and multiple technologies to do the synthetic biology that I was telling you about yesterday. And it's actually really difficult because universities are structured in silos, and they're really, really siloed. They have buildings that separate one group of people from another. So you get science over here, and chemistry over there, and medicine over there, and engineering over there. And people don't talk to each other. So it's really hard to go and create new technologies that depend on the convergence of multiple systems. And it was just really frustrating. And after spending 6 months with one university trying to explore how to integrate these different departments to go and do this process of synthetic biology, which is part computing, part engineering, part medicine, the only option was to create a new department where you could put all the different components into one place. And of course, all the deans of all those departments resisted that. So having been a little frustrated, I thought, I didn't know what to do. And then a friend that I'd met a couple of years before and helped out started texting me these pictures from a meeting he was at in California. And then it was the meeting where they brought together 40 leaders in technology to consider making a new university. And I thought the name was terrible. It came loaded with a whole bunch of stuff that people didn't understand. Is it physics? Is it what? But the vision was amazing. It was just, don't look backwards. Go and build a new university with fast-changing technologies. Literally, technologies that are changing very quickly. Embrace them and go look forward. And it's a little odd. It's very fringy in some ways. But I've been with this group since 2009, and I've never had to push an idea uphill. More than that, I'm a conservative in this university compared to people like José and our chairman Rick as well. And so it's like I'm practical. And yet, so I learned how to push my boundaries out a little bit more in acceptance. And I don't always agree with them. Sometimes I argue with them. But at the same time, I really have to accept that they have vision that is becoming really a fearlessness in looking to the future that is really difficult to find in conventional universities today. And so it's only 4 years old. Our alumni group is small, but it's powerful, it's growing. We're still learning how to go and actually scale it so more people can access the courses and instructions on the web. But one thing that I've really appreciated is the executive programs. The executive programs is where I've been focusing more and more because we get really, they're expensive. That's a big filter. But we end up getting these people coming in from leaders in all these different industries that have never talked to each other. They've never talked to each other for the most part because, as you know, in corporations, you get firewalled. You can't go and talk to them as corporations. And they come in, we get about 80 of them now coming together. And they work together for either 4 days or 7 days. And they get bombarded with information and it cracks their brain open because chances are they've been down so deep in their one industry or organization or specialty, and you just see them wake up. All of a sudden they're not talking about doom and gloom and the economic crisis or the challenges of running their business. It's like, what? Wow, look, the future's amazing. And we have this tools and resources to go and start moving in that direction. I've watched literally the leaders of some of these organizations transform. And I would like to bring that same type of spirit to every individual, everywhere. And I think this is why I still end up spending so much time working with Singularity University. Thanks. I hope you check it out. Okay, we still have a lot of time here for questions and answers.
But before that, let's give other 3 minutes to Kim Soles from Alberta, one of our first participants in the executive program at Singularity University. So, Kim.
So I'm a physician, author, and full-time faculty member of the University of Cordeiro, one of the few full-time university faculty that took the executive course in 2010. And I think what was remarkable about it, most courses, most educational experiences you have, as soon as it ends, the information trails off. And a few days later, you'll know less and less and less. This is exactly the opposite of that. You become part of a matrix of interaction and sort of educational resources and people that grows and grows. And so from the point that your course ends to now, you will realize how much your life has been enhanced and how much things have grown and how much of a tremendous impact that relatively short course had on you. And then there's something else that has impressed me is the need to mainstream this. Because what is taught at Singularity University, the rest of the world out there needs to know. And just like Andrew was saying, the structures in the university are wrong to prepare people for the future. And somehow to teach about this stuff, to bring it from SU to mainstream universities needs to be done. So we've created a course called Technology and the Future of Medicine at the U of A, where you can be from any faculty. We have people from business, arts, all over the place, the best and the brightest in the university teaching in this course, and really people from all over the world taking part. But it's just an attempt to mainstream what Singularity University is doing. Now, if to any of you what they're doing seems very niche and weird and strange, I assure you that in this year that will change. Particularly the mind uploading, the stuff about building an artificial brain. Ray Kurzweil has a new book coming out this November exactly about that, creating an artificial mind, how the mind works and how to build one. And I believe the impact of that book will be that will mainstream the general public's interest in these areas much more than is true now. So already what SU talks about is of mainstream importance to human beings out there, and that will be even more evident than it is now as the year progresses. I have benefited very much from the course, and I think everybody in my class and everybody that I knew there also has. Thanks.
Okay, so let's go and take some questions, please. So,
I noticed, Jose, that you have Peter Diamandis' book. That hasn't been mentioned in this conference yet. I finished that book, Abundance, which is an optimistic view of our collective futures. And I wish that had been brought here for sale. I had asked the book committee to do that. I would recommend that to everyone in the room, in the conference, probably the world, because it's where we're heading. So I didn't know whether you were going to plug it, but it's not a plug, it's a great read.
Yes, and I forgot actually. In fact, there were a couple of copies yesterday. I saw them in the bookshop, but I think they went off quickly. Yeah, this is a fantastic book, really. This is, Singularity University has two co-founders. One is Ray Kurzweil, who wrote the book, The Singularity is Near. I have the other pin, I have another pin here from the X Prize Foundation that was founded by Peter Diamandis. And so he just published this book that I truly highly recommend. This is a futuristic vision of the world with the positive and bad, but explaining why humans actually like the bad news more than the good news. because the human condition has only improved. But we always look at the bad, negative aspects, and he explains why. So yes, thank you so much. Well, you know, actually I have this spare copy, but I'm not going to give it to you because you have read the book. So this is for the next one who asks a good question. Okay, you were raising your hand. Let's see if your question is good. If it is good, the book is yours. Wow, no question. So, yeah. Okay.
I have a question. Can I have the book?
Thank you. It was a question for Anna. Anna, thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation. I'm touched by your work. To what extent did you look at the influence of the mind and therefore, if you like, the plasticity of the mind and human consciousness on genes? So in other words, what you're looking at there is a structure, i.e. genes, influencing humanity. I'm asking it from the other direction. To what extent can our consciousness and the way we think about things and feel about things actually influence the genes during our lifetime?
You know,
So,
Anna, is that a good question, or do I give you the book or not? Do you like the question?
would you like to ask somebody else? No.
Okay, so maybe you don't answer, but I gave him the book. Okay, no answer, obviously.
You know, I think the reaction for the knowledge of your genes, first of all, depends on the person, first of all. But for example, when I got my results from DTC company, I really heard about these results because I really think about that I have too much problems and I have really some of elevated risks for my diseases. Some of people really try to do something, but in most of the cases nowadays it's very difficult to change the behavior and to do something. But the primary life, it's really the source where we're thinking about this issue. And primary life tries to help this, but with realizing some of the functions. For example, connection with a genetic counselor, who really can help you explain more about your genetics. Not only you just see the report and read it, but explain and give you a personal feedback, personalized plan.
Okay, next
Just say a
question.
couple words here on that point. Probably about a year before I went to Singularity University, I actually did a review of the 23andMe service on my blog, which was pretty popular. But I want to tell you that for me, the crucial point is your starting point. Right? For me, my crucial starting point was, I know I have heart disease, I know I have diabetes, and I know I have a number of other serious issues in my family. So I want to know which ones of those I have and which ones I don't, so I know where to focus on. So that's my starting point. My sister-in-law, with whom we discussed the issue, for example, had a very different starting point, and first was, I don't want to know how likely am I to have breast cancer. I'm better off not knowing. So for me, it's a fundamental starting point of whether you want to know or you want to be in the dark. And that's a personal choice. I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying that this is where you start. And once you answer that question, then you go one path or another.
Okay, we have two questions here in the front. Okay, I'll give pen drives. I ran out of books, but I gave pen drives from Singularity University. This is big enough to fit your genome. So, okay, what is your question?
With the gathering information, is it a problem to find people actually to assimilate all that and come to a conclusion anyway? Because I can only imagine as this is going to grow exponentially, a lot of people get tested, they're going to have a vast amount of information. Who's doing the work on that, on the accumulation of data?
Oh, okay, actually, Let me take the first run of that because I showed my human genome, the partial sequence, which I think anyway is unstoppable because if I touch you, if I take one of your hairs, I will be able to sequence your genome. So this is absolutely unstoppable. That's my personal point of view. This is me. You can see the disease rates for many different things. I don't show everything, but you can see the probability that I will have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. This is my trait, alcohol flush reaction. I do not flush. That is why I like to drink wine, for example. Bitter taste perception, ear wax type. The ear wax depends on a gene that has already been identified. Eye color, and so on and so forth. If I'm a carrier for several different conditions, and so on and so forth. And this is very simple to do, and it will cost only $10 in the future. So it is unstoppable. And I think it's positive because when people say that they want to preserve their privacy, to me that is total BS. Because if I touch you, I'll sequence your genome, and that's good for humanity because the objective of this is not to know that you are going to die of Parkinson's, but it's to cure Parkinson's. Right. That is why we need to sequence the genomes of as many people as possible as fast as we can.
Does it get better with time as you gather more depth?
Yes, this is a very good question. So far, we have been able to identify less than 10% of the genes. Why? Because very few people have sequenced their genomes. It is a chicken and egg problem. You know, the genes don't say, I am the gene for Alzheimer's, I'm the gene for blue eyes. The way to discover that is by sequencing thousands and thousands of people and see who has blue eyes and find those genes, who has Alzheimer's and find those genes. So it is a probabilistic statistical problem. And the way to discover that is sequencing millions of genomes, and that will give us the ability to cure all those diseases. That's my take on that. Comments? Anna, you are in medicine, come here.
Yes, but here in 23andMe, we are talking about the genotyping. It's a partly sequenced DNA. It's not a sequencing. The sequencing is when you interpret the whole genome. And $10, which José is talking about, he's talking about the sequencing, and this is the better. You can know more information about yourself, more than here. So, in the future.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get a clarification because I apologize that I entered the room late, so you might have covered this, but would you, I'm trying to make sense of what you just showed us, how I can get this for $10 for now, or can I see that 20 years from now?
Well, right now, actually, the X Prize Foundation has a contest of who is the first company that is going to sequence the full genome for $1,000, and we expect that to be next year. So next year, for $1,000, you will be able to sequence your full genome. But it is useless yet, because we only understand 10% of the genes. So you will be able to read your whole genome, but you don't know what it means. It's like if you're reading Chinese. You can recognize the characters, but you still don't know what they do, what they mean. But the way to solve that is when everybody or millions of people sequence the genome, and then we will find what those genes do. And again, the time frame for that is 10 to 15 years, I believe. So we will be curing all those diseases, identifying the genetic causes of diseases in 10 to 15 years. So another question here, and you get a pen drive from Singularity University to put your genome here.
Thanks, José. Just very quickly on that last question, I think there's a lot more to be said in terms of aggregating data from many people, not just one person. And this is described, for example, in Eric Toppel's book, The Creative Destruction of Medicine, which I think is a very fine book on this topic about the way in which personal genomics is being transformed, not just by the improvements in individual analysis, but by huge big data analysis across many people and many reactions to drugs. But the question I wanted to ask is about the evolution of Singularity, the university itself. As it was mentioned, there's some ideas of trying to make this material available much more widely, or online perhaps. So people have been talking about this for a couple of years. So what are the plans, and what is the possibility to take this information and share it much more widely, possibly at lower cost? But secondly, if that were to happen, would that mean that the people who attended already might they not have gone? Would they have preferred to stay at home and get this information at home? Or would they have missed out on the interaction face-to-face?
Okay. Okay, first about Eric Topol. He's one of our faculty also at Singularity University. So I recommend that you also read that book by Eric Topol. So it's an excellent book. In terms of the evolution of the university, I have been involved since the beginning, since the founding of the university in 2009, and the university has been growing based on the model of International Space University that was also founded by Peter Diamandis. Peter Diamandis, 25 years ago when he was at MIT, he founded International Space University. And then that has grown to have an incredible impact in humanity because everybody in NASA who is anyone, or in all the space agencies around the planet have gone to International Space University. So the idea is that Singularity University will have the same impact in humanity in the next 20 years. That is why we're truly global. You know, I'm not American, I'm not Canadian, I'm from South America. You also saw another professor who is Canadian, Andrew Hessel. So we have international faculty, we have international students, because we are looking for future leaders or current leaders in all over the planet. And the university is growing. We began only with 40 students. Now we have grown to 80. Hopefully we should be growing soon to 100 and 120. We have now the executive programs regularly. We have international programs right now in 5 countries. We have international programs in Israel, in Brazil, in Russia. We had one. And I'm working on 2 more in Korea and in Malaysia. So this is growing exponentially.
Just to briefly add to those last 2 points. So first, going back to 23andMe, basically, if there's a one-time fee, which at the time I did the test was about $100. I think right now it's like $39 or $49, and then there's a $10 per month monthly fee that you pay minimum for a year. All you need to do is do a saliva test, which you mail to them. It's very easy, and after that is done, they do what's called phenotype testing, which is not the full genomic mapping of you, but it's 1 million base pairs, those phenotypes, and then that basically gives you a high probability of getting these numbers right. It's not exact science, and as we heard, our interpretation of these is evolving. So as soon as a new interpretation of those genes is identified and becomes available, they're very good at updating their database. But generally for going to the next level and sort of taking actionable steps with that information which they give you, I think Anna has a very good project going on. Now going to the Singularity University experience, I can say this. I did my best to sort of document and put out in the public my personal experience there. So I did a lot of video footage. I have a video tour of the facilities, which have improved since then. I've interviewed pretty much more than half of the faculty, or a lot of the faculty. I've put many of the lectures, actually, at least 6 or 7 of the lectures, online. Some of them are just audio, some of them are both video and audio. And I even have some tips on applying to Singularity University, those of you who are considering. I mean, you might come across my video, which was called 10 Reasons Not to Accept Me to Singularity University, and I was trying to tell them not to get me there because that would be a big mistake. But what should I say? Don't follow that example. I don't know how it worked. I'm very much surprised on that myself. Yeah, that's it.
In terms of the growth, do you want to say something quickly, Kim? Because you know, he comes back every year to Singularity University, so he has also seen the growth. And then we have 2 more questions here.
Well, I think the students are getting better. Even as, you know, remarkable as they were the first year, they're much, much better now. The projects are getting better. The whole thing is expanding and getting more corporate connections. I think in every way you can imagine it's getting better. Will it be harmed in any way if the information is shared more widely? No, not at all. I think that's the way all things go. If you think about, you know, open source versus, you know, proprietary things in the world, this would be perfectly natural. The main messages, the main themes are circulated very widely. People would still come. There's a lot to gain by those personal interactions, being in the room, seeing the people?
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. I believe in transhumanism, and I believe we are going to move into post-human phase soon, but we are still humans. And while we are humans, physical interactions are very important. And here we have one question and one pen drive for my friend Linda.
Okay, first of all, I want to really commend the fact that you bring people together from many disciplines, because I think our traditional universities are still stuck in the Newtonian industrial era model of dividing reality in all these separate parts, and the most interesting creativity can come when people come together from all different backgrounds, which is what futures are supposed to be doing too. I've had an ongoing dialogue with Jose for a long time. I'm very interested in evolution. I'm working on my own book on it, but I'm also interested as part of that on this physical, biological, cultural, technology, and consciousness. And I think I don't agree that Kurzweil's view that consciousness is just a product of the calculation speed of the physical brain, because I think it's maybe more than that. And there's a book by Bruce Lipton, I think, about, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but he's a cellular biologist, and he's done work on the cell, and that the behavior of the cell it's not just a product of the genes, but there's the physical reality, but it's how the wall of the cell interacts with the environment, and how people's consciousness can also affect the behavior. So I guess I'm challenging you to look at a slightly broader view of consciousness as well.
Actually, I think Kim Soles already answered that. Ray Kurzweil is coming up with a new book that we actually hope to present at the World Future Society 2013 in Chicago. And the name of the book is What is the Mind and How to Build One. Once you read the book, you will be able to build a mind.
But does he say the mind is only physical? I mean, that's my...
Yes, this is a very... this is the discussions, Linda, I have after the 3 cups of red wine. So we have to have some red wine before that. Okay, I still have 2 more pen drives for 2 more questions.
I was just going to say, the book is The Biology of Belief.
The book that Linda was referring to is The Biology of Belief.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Okay, so no pen drive for that. A pen drive here for you? Okay, almost. Question.
What kind of relationship do you, graduates of Singularity University, have with the intellectual property you've created? And same question for you with the intellectual property that you bring to the table, as well as what your students or executives are creating on site.
Anna, you want to answer that in terms of intellectual property? What is happening with your company?
Intellectual property regarding Premier Life, yes?
Yes.
We filed several applications in Russian Federal Service, patent service, for database and some algorithm, programming algorithm.
Okay.
That's it. Right now, it's in this point. But as soon as we grow enough, of course, we will have another patient, and mainly international.
Yeah, in terms of generally, as a university, we encourage our students to come up with new things, and it belongs to them. What we request from them is that they give us maybe 1%, 3%, 5% of their company as an endowment. So this is like the trade-off. They do whatever they want with what they invent, they create, but we are very happy if they give us some shares from their startups.
And that's to the university itself?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, one final question?
I have a question.
Okay, there in the back. Well, let's take both quickly, and then I'll go to
Are you
the
going to open up a school here, Ken?
yeah, Kim says no. Okay, final question and final pen drive for today.
Very quickly, someone mentioned biology of belief. I was just wondering how you're concerned with biology of love.
Yes, Maturana, a very famous scientist from Chile. But you're a philosopher, Nicola. That question is for you. Biology of belief. He's a philosopher. I'm an engineer. I don't believe in the soul. So,
Biology of love.
You stuck me again, okay. So what was the question exactly? Biology of love?
Believe.
It's the book by Bruce Lipton.
Yeah, it's basically continuing your theme, right? If I get it. So you see, I have to say that on this one I'm with José. We have some differences with respect to Milton Friedman, being José, but on that one we are together. I have to say, for me, as far as scientifically we can speak about things is only from the point of view of science. That is something which we can observe and test and verify. So you come up with a hypothesis, then you test it, and then you readjust. Basically the scientific method of inquiry. And I'm afraid that once we get into that area of going beyond the material world, I personally don't see a way of testing and verifying it, and therefore any hypothesis could or could not be correct.
But Bruce Lipton is a scientist. So, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, my question was about the biology of love. So you have no love in your system, no capacity to respond, and that's a very human thing.
Oh, it is a very human thing, and there are very specific biological processes that are associated with our feeling of love. That's a fact, right, from a biological point of view. But I guess I sort of went into the other direction with respect to the previous question.
Yeah, it is a very interesting subject again, but I love to talk about those areas, but after 3 glasses of red wine. Before that, I don't get into the mood. Anyway, I have some literature if you're interested to know more about Singularity University. I hope that you like the session. We will have another one in Chicago 2013. It's a pleasure to see you, and wish me luck in the San Francisco Marathon tomorrow.